Hey everybody, mel0n here. Welcome back to another episode of the mel0n Review. As of late, I've been very interested in keyboard switches specifically as I've finally settled on a daily driver board for work and just general use, the Shortcut Studio Bridge 75 in this case, and I've been wanting to experiment with more switch types to see what would fit my typing style the best, and today we're going to be testing the first of the many switches I'll probably be testing here on the channel, the mel0n Seabreeze switches developed by Ukeebs in collaboration with Gateron. Now, while these are mechanical switches and kind of standard ones on the surface, they've actually had a lot of very interesting alterations made to their design, as not only do they have a very colorful housing that matches their mel0n Seabreeze naming perfectly, they also have a very unique stem design as opposed to standard mechanical switches that gives these switches, while they are mechanical, a similar sound profile to a magnetic switch, which is something I haven't seen before, and their audio feedback is actually quite pleasant, and in combination with the switch's fantastic typing feel, while Ukeebs is a newer name in the keyboard market, these mel0n Seabreeze switches sound, perform, and feel fantastic to use. So in today's video, we're going to take a deep dive and talk in depth all about Ukeebs' mel0n Seabreeze switches and see how they stack up against other mechanical switches on the market. But before we get into it, if you enjoy the video and want to see more videos like this testing other mechanical switches, be sure to leave a like on this video and get subscribed to the channel. And if you have suggestions of other mechanical switches or magnetic switches I should cover here on the channel, please let me know down in the comments because I want to test a bunch more in the future. And if you'd like to support what I do here on the channel with the in-depth reviews and of course the teardown project, consider becoming a member here on YouTube, as that is the best way to directly support the channel. But without further ado, let's get right into today's episode of the mel0n Review. For pricing, the mel0n Seabreeze switches retail for approximately 38 cents USD per switch and are available in 35 or 110 piece sets from Ukeebs, which retail for 13.30 USD and 41.80 USD respectively. In terms of specs, the mel0n Seabreeze switches are, as I mentioned earlier, mechanical switches, and they are 5-pin ones at that, so if you're interested in trying these switches, make sure that your board supports 5-pin layout switches to ensure compatibility. Now, the switches feature a very summer theming, one that matches their naming perfectly, as the bottom nylon housing has a light blue coloring to it, the polycarbonate top shell is a semi-transparent light yellow, and the polyoxymethylene, better known as POM material stem, has a bright yellow coloring to it. The switches are a linear type with a total travel range of 3.6 millimeters and a pre-travel range of 2 ± 0.6 millimeters, and they have an operational force of 45 ± 15 gram force. The switches are also pre-looped from the factory, and they also use a standard MX style keycap mount and are rated for 80 million actuations. But as I mentioned earlier, these switches do feature a special type of stem, one which gives the mel0n Seabreeze switches a unique, more focused audio feedback, so let's talk about that next. Now, on most mechanical switches, the base of the stem has a larger, flattened or rounded end, which when bottomed out creates the switch's audio feedback, but due to the larger surface area on the end of the stem, often the keystroke sound is loose and unfocused, and depending on the switch's bottom housing material, the audio feedback of the switch can sound a little aggressive and overpowering in some cases. But here in the mel0n Seabreeze switches, their stems are a protruding type where there is a very small rounded tip to the end of the stem that when bottomed out has a smaller contact area when it hits the bottom housing, which creates a more balanced, focused audio feedback, and when combined with the switch's nylon base housing, it gives the switches a very satisfying thonky sound, but a very focused one. The best way I can describe the audio feedback is that it's very reminiscent of the Gateron Jade Pro magnetic switches, as both switches have that mahjong tile-like thonkiness to them, but the mel0n Seabreeze switches are more focused in how they sound. To better explain the switch's audio feedback, here's how the mel0n Seabreeze switches sound compared to a bunch of other mechanical switch types. Now in terms of performance and typing feel, given the mel0n Seabreeze switch's actuation weight and linear nature, these switches felt great to use, and over my testing I didn't have any issues with the switches looping, and all the keys remained consistent and smooth over my testing. It's also worth noting that the stabilization of the switches is quite good too. There is a little bit of side to side play as expected for a non-walled stem type switch, but the switches never felt wobbly or uneven during my testing. Now the switches are, as expected, very universal in their use case, as they can be used for both work and gaming use, and while they performed fine on my Pulsar X board MS, I still prefer lighter switches with a much shorter pre-travel range for gaming use. But while they were my favorite switch for gaming use, their typing experience is fantastic, as their design and protruding stem gives them a very satisfying sound, as I just talked about, especially when combined with a high quality board like the Bridge 75. So while Ukeebs designed the mel0n Seabreeze switches to be universal in terms of their use case, while they can be used for gaming, personally speaking I found them to be best suited for typing and general use. And lastly, I wanted to quickly mention another unique feature to the mel0n Seabreeze switches, as they have a unique arc-shaped diffuser for light built into the switch itself. Now this diffuser not only slightly widens the lighting's range, it also softens it as well, which is very useful for taming very bright boards like the X board MS for example, but keep in mind, since the upper housing of the switches is slightly yellowed, your board's lighting will also be slightly yellowed, but by a very slight margin. Alright, well in closing, overall the mel0n Seabreeze switches from Ukeebs and Gateron are a very surprising and very solidly performing switch. I'll admit initially I thought these switches were just going to be another run-of-the-mill mechanical switch, as all mechanical switches are kind of the same, but this protruding stem gives these switches the best typing sound I've heard on a non-magnetic switch to date, and of course their typing feel is fantastic, and their build quality and everything else about these switches is pretty much perfect, and I'm actually so impressed with these switches. These are actually going to be staying in my Bridge 75 until another switch trumps them, but I have a feeling it'll be a little while till that actually happens. But overall I am very impressed with the mel0n Seabreeze switches, and if you're looking to pick up a great general use or typing optimized switch, I'd highly recommend checking them out. And if you do want to learn more about the mel0n Seabreeze switches or pick up a set for yourself, I'll have the product page linked down in the video description for you. Alright, but with that, that's everything for today's episode of the mel0n Review. Thank you very much again to Ukeebs for sending over the mel0n Seabreeze switches. I greatly appreciate it. And big thank you to our channel members who make what I do here on the channel possible. If you'd like to support my efforts here on the channel with the in-depth reviews and of course the Teardown project, consider becoming a member here on YouTube, as that is one of the best ways to directly support the channel, and being a member gives you early access to all upcoming content. So if you'd like to support what I do here on the channel and get early access to all upcoming content, become a member today. Thanks again for watching my review of the Ukeebs mel0n Seabreeze switches, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the mel0n Review. Peace.